Shalom, shalom, peace and blessings and all of that good stuff to the children of Israel. My name is India Love, also known as Yapah, Gabar, Rawach. I recently had a birth announcement courtesy of Miss Cece. Shout out to you for the birth of my son, Akad Malak. And I have quite the testimony for him. In early April of this year, of 2022, I found out that I was pregnant, and I was very happy. Well, about a week or two later, I had a first trimester miscarriage and lost the baby at 7 weeks. And I was a bit sad about that. And after that happened, I waited about a month for my cycle to come, and it never came. So I took another pregnancy test, and it turns out that I was pregnant. I was pregnant again. And this time around, I was nervous, but I was thankful, and I was patient. And at 12 weeks, I went to the doctor and got an ultrasound, and they said the baby was healthy and he was moving around and just happy. And I said, all praises. Then I found out probably about a week later, after I got my first ultrasound and doctor's appointment, I got a call saying that I was a type 2 diabetic and that they were going to send me to maternal fetal medicine to come up with a plan to manage my diabetes. They spoke so many different evils over my son when I was pregnant with him. They said, oh, your diabetes is not gestational, which was basically saying that it's diabetes. Gestational diabetes is diabetes that develops when you become pregnant. They were saying that my type 2 diabetes was pre-existing, that I had it before I got pregnant. So I said, okay. I had gained a lot of weight, and I did have like a high carb diet, so it wasn't taboo, to be honest. And when I began going to what is known as maternal fetal medicine for them to come up with a birth plan, they told me that I would have to get ultrasounds up until I was 30 weeks to monitor his growth and his heartbeat. And they tried to prescribe me insulin. Now, I was against taking the insulin immediately. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I would rather try a different route. So they put me on metformin, but they put me on the low dose because they wanted me to take the insulin, which I was not taking the metformin either. I had been doing a lot of research, and it's a lot of herbs and then just diet and exercise that can manage and cure type 2 diabetes. Fruits and vegetables along with protein and a low carb diet was what I was looking into. Basically the keto diet, where you eat little to no carbohydrates at all. You know, they always want to say simple carbohydrates versus complex, but the quote unquote simple carbohydrates will spike your sugar just as much as the complex carbohydrates are. So I decided to take the keto route. Now, it was the enemy was very busy using these people by telling me, oh, those sugar spikes that the baby is having can cause him to go have stillbirth. And I had already lost a child in the second trimester miscarriage in 2021, and then I had a miscarriage right before. So of course, you know, it was scary to me. It's like, well, should I just take the insulin just to make sure that the baby's gonna be okay? But my husband told me, he said, no, do not take that insulin. Just get more exercise and stick to a diet until you get here. And Just do it that way. Don't let them scare you into taking this insulin. You know, I didn't know. I'm like, I don't know. But okay, I'll do what you say. I'll do what you say. And I never took the insulin. Not once. Not once did I take the insulin. Not once did I take the metformin. And throughout, like I said, throughout the pregnancy, they kept on saying, well, you know, infants and or fetuses, whatever it is they call them, when you're pregnant, they are susceptible to having heart and health problems due to the diabetes. We have to take his test and all these different things. But every single time I went for an ultrasound, everything was growing perfect. His heart rate, when they checked how his heart was developing and if he had all his chambers and things in his heart, everything was perfect. He was developing perfectly, literally perfectly. I prayed over my son every single day, and I asked the Most High to give me the strength and the patience and just let he be born healthy and that be okay. And I had faith that he was going to be okay. Every time I went in there, he was so active. He was so active. They always would ask me, feeling baby move? I'm like, a lot. Well, that's good. That's good. You know, that still can change. You know, they was planting so many trying to plant so many evil seeds about my son. They even told me, oh, well, you're going to have to get induced because chances are, because you're diabetic, the insulin and the sugar spikes cause the babies to be oversized. Now, what didn't make sense to me with that, why would I have to get induced or possibly have a cesarean when I know people who have had babies that was 8, 9, even almost 10 pounds and were able to push those children out naturally? So I wasn't having that. I'm like, I'm not getting a cesarean. Well, at 22 weeks, also, on top of finding out that I had diabetes, I went to get an ultrasound and they wanted to check my cervix because I had a second trimester loss, and they wanted to make sure that my cervix wasn't opening, and it turns out it was. So what had to happen, I had to go to labor and delivery triage and get admitted, and they had to give me a surgery. Okay. The surgery is called a cervical cerclage, where they have to go in and sew your cervix closed to keep the baby, to keep your cervix from dilating and ultimately inducing labor and losing a baby early. And of course, I was 22 weeks at the time, so his chances of survival, if he was to be born that early, were really low. Of course, I didn't want to go through that again. I've been through that. So I said, okay, I got the surgery. And the stitch held up until I got to 33 weeks. When I got to 33 weeks, I started having a lot of contractions. And I went to the bathroom and I was bleeding. So I immediately went to the hospital triage, and it turns out that the stitch, my cervix was opening despite the stitch. So it had to be taken out. And they was pretty sure that I was going to have him that night. But thankfully, my contractions slowed down. His activity and his heart rate and everything was still pretty good. So that was a blessing, because if I had him early at 36 weeks and under, 36 weeks and under is not full term. So they would have took him to the intensive care unit, the neonatal intensive care unit, and wanted to keep him in an incubator and all these different things. Plus his lungs wasn't fully developed, and all that type of stuff. His chances of survival was like 80 something %, but still, he would have had to stay in the hospital for at least 90 days, depending on the progress. And I'm not comfortable with that because I don't vaccinate my children, things like that. So, but the Most High is good, because, like I said, my contractions slowed down, and ultimately I was able to go home. So from there, the next month from there, I was just, playing the waiting game. I was having Braxton Hicks contractions, some that was so severe that me and my husband went to the hospital like twice, thinking I'm in labor, and it's just Braxton Hicks. But I wanted to make sure that everything was okay. And then finally, on January 20th, the morning, I'm getting ready to get up so I could go and use the bathroom, and my water breaks. I had a very long labor. It was 16 hours, but it wasn't so bad. The beginning was really, really easy. I didn't have no pain. I was chilling. But when things began to progress, first it slowed down for a second. And the problem with things slowing down as far as my contractions, by me having my water broke, since my water had already broke, they was gonna want to give me Pitocin to induce my contractions. And Pitocin is super dangerous. It's risk of seizures, heart issues, and a whole bunch of other things. And I had a sister there with me, and she was telling me, like, I don't care what they say, don't allow them to give you the Pitocin. So we went, I had my husband get some castor oil and I took a few spoons of that since my contractions had slowed down. Once that started setting in, that set my labor right in motion. I went through some excruciating contractions. And I do mean excruciating contractions. One thing I learned, when your water breaks and you have to go through that labor contractions, it is much worse than going through contractions without your water breaking. Much, much worse. But I endured it as long as I could, even though right towards the very end, I ain't gonna lie, I was asking for an epidural. But he didn't stay in there long enough for me to get the epidural. They told me to get out the bed and walk around and move around some more. I got out the bed and my body kept feeling the urge to push. And I'm saying, I need to push, go get somebody. And as the sister was leaving the room, my body was pushing that baby out. And he was hanging out, and my husband was like, get on the bed. And I hurried up and got on the bed, and I pushed again, and he was here. My husband called him, and he was here. He was born real good. He was crying. I was able to, praise the Most High, leave him attached to the placenta so he could get all of his nutrients. They honored that wish, even though they wanted to cut it bad. It doesn't look like it's pulsing, so we gonna cut it. I was like, no, let him sit on there a little bit longer. And then after that, they also honored not giving him his bath right away, because when you delay the bath, it makes it easier for breastfeeding. And he latched right on. I didn't have any issues breastfeeding him at all. And he's amazing. He's alert, and he got a lot of personality already. He's pretty clear on what it is that he wants. He eats until he's full, and then once he's full, that's it. He's not eating nothing else. And I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that the Most High blessed me and heard all of my prayers as it pertains to him, because again, they spoke so much evil over my son. They spoke death over my son. They told me that my labor I wouldn't be able to push him. I would have to get a C-section. They tried to give me medicine. They was trying to see if he was diabetic. It was just all these different things, and I overcame all of it. So I hope this testimony inspires somebody to have faith in the Most High, because these doctors, they understand psychology. They know how, if they say certain things to you in a certain kind of way, that, when you believe something, it'll come to pass. But the Father has the last say. any person who is there that's having complications with their pregnancy or whatever the situation be, and the doctors is trying to get you to do one thing, pray on it and let the Most High, Christ and the Holy Spirit guide you. That's my advice to you, because they will not fail you. I love you guys. CC again, thank you so much for the opportunity to share my testimony, and bless you all.